Welcome back to Your Town television program. My guest is Thomas Hood, architect, and my great friend. Let's talk about your getting involved with the MHAA and what your involvement as an architect has been.
Mark, thanks for inviting me here today, and I'll give you the short answer to 6 years of time with MHAA. I got on the board initially to work on developing a strategy for a seismic retrofit to one of their historic properties. And that role evolved into eventually becoming board president a couple years ago. And along with a few stalwarts left on the board, we had the task of reopening the museum. And that really kicked off my real large time commitment into the museum to work with a small group on rebranding and getting the museum open and actually creating an enhanced visitor experience and expanding beyond just our maritime. So as an architect, nothing beats a deadline. Everything's got a budget, and you have to have end results that service your client, either whether they own a shopping center, an office building, or in this case, a not-for-profit that has a series of structures that needed some attention and needed to attract a new audience. So that's been the real challenge. That's how I've been able to transfer being an architect to being on the board.
So when the museum reopened, we came up with the decision to be nimble, to be quick, to keep it like a three-ring circus, to be able to tear walls down, put walls up, be ready for a show if something fabulous happened, that we'd be ready at a moment's notice. And you're the person that made all that possible. You're the guy that built the sets, so to speak, and the moving walls, the walls on rollers, the stripped down effect. And so let's talk about your concept and your vision and kind of where that came from.
It actually is, and thank you for saying that. It's everything over there is a group effort and continues to be. But the goal was with this new mix of arts, history, innovation, and maritime, and being able to tell stories in a variety of different ways within that 16,000 square foot building. What we also recognized at the board was the need to be flexible, so that, quite honestly, unlike in the past, most members of the community came as a one-time experience. They visited the museum once. Every fourth grader came once. And we realized that we had to create an opportunity for people to come back again and again. And we had to be able to figure a way to do it inexpensively and in a clean, refreshing way that didn't compete with our collections. So I came up with a very simple partition system made of off-the-shelf wood materials and developed a very simple system that you can connect the pieces together and create different shapes, so that you could do a straight wall and hang artwork on it. You could create a box and put something inside of it. So I wanted to come up with something that was inexpensive, clean, neutral, and modern, in that we got away from the traditional tools of painted sheetrock walls and tradesmen building for weeks on end. We had to be able to do it quickly, but we also had to be able to have a system that if we needed additional space and we weren't taking a show down, we could actually physically move a wall, and which we did after we opened. We moved a 28-foot wall with 2 guys in about 2 minutes to accommodate a large group that was coming in. So the system really evolved out of this need to be, as you said, nimble and quick, and in a way that does not compete with the building, and as a neutral background for the art. And that's why we went with the painted partitions and the whole system. Okay,
just to let the audience in, let's see an image, and let's walk through these images. Okay, this is the Bryant Austin. Let's talk about your work with this. And where are we?
This is our most recent installation, and quite honestly represents our first floor gallery in its most stripped down sense here. And my goal as exhibition designer working with the artist Brian Austin was to put all the attention exclusively on his absolutely remarkable photographs taken underwater over a period of several years, and that the background and the space essentially was clean and void, not unlike the waters that he was swimming in. So we created a very simple partition down the center that appears to sort of float in the space.
And this is 2 weeks ago.
This is 2 weeks ago. And what you're seeing here is the moment after, well, we had a little drama sometimes, that's part of the mix, is we put up 30 feet of a black shroud and hid this piece, which is of a 30-foot long minke whale, okay? And what we did to add a little drama and to get everyone focused on this particular piece, we asked them to gather on that side, and at the right moment, Brian Austin said, and I want to introduce you to Ella. And we dropped the shroud, and the wonderful thing was, two things happened. One is, nobody moved, nobody said anything. They actually took the moment to engage themselves directly with that particular piece at that moment with a whole bunch of people.
Let's see the next image, please.
Okay. This is an exhibition that we actually opened just last Saturday. Jeff Beckham has traveled the world. I refer to him as sort of the Indiana Jones of architectural photographers. Jeff's standing in front of one of our only permanent wall in our atrium, in front of a series of photographs that he has taken over the last 15 years. In this case, we just wanted to provide a very clean format for his artwork with lots of rich saturated colors that actually look quite wonderful in a much more open public space. It's a very social area out here in the atrium, and he's provided some terrific text so that you can meander around these and we can hold events there.
Let's see the next image, please. Okay. So here's where we started.
This is where we started. That's 2 exhibitions. Actually, this is actually late July. Straight ahead, Flows to Baer. That was our first outside curated exhibition. And the concept behind this was, one is create some wow on a dime in 60 days. This is our first installation of the partition system I designed. But there's something very subtle that I try to bring into every show that doesn't upstage the art. And the one detail you'll see here is the panels in the back are actually floating off the floor. Well, the story behind the Pacific gyre of all this plastic floating around in the oceans and being translated into individual pieces of art, I wanted to give that same feeling of weightlessness to those objects so that I lifted the partitions off the floor so that you saw the floor of the space as a neutral, shiny background of the ocean floor.
Okay. And now this show was curated by Lisa Casino, who was our third partner at this time. And it was very serious. It set the tone of what we could do. It set the tone of a new way of dealing with our maritime experience and our maritime dedication.
Everything comes from maritime. What goes on in the ocean is tied into our maritime history. Lisa's show that she put together was the first of its kind of this collective of artists in a museum. So it was exciting for the artists, and it was important for MHAA to not only acknowledge their history, but put something out there that's current right now. Yeah. And that's what that show did. Yeah,
so Flows to Baer was a fabulous show. Let's see the next image, please. Okay, so this is our second floor, and again, you were instrumental in helping with this design.
Yeah, upstairs is a completely different experience than the first floor gallery. It almost feels more like an artist's loft. Upstairs here, you've got the views of the bay. It's quieter, it's carpeted. That's where we installed, let's call it the best ofs, the treasures out of the huge MHA collection, which includes the L&B Knight collection, furniture, art pieces, scrimshaw. It's just absolutely amazing collection of a variety of pieces. And what we did here was essentially use the same partition system and place it such that people can mill around it. We've changed these exhibitions out twice in the last 16 months. So even those that have seen this collection before, we can assure them when they come back next year, something will change because we have more objects than we can put on display at any one given time. So you can go back and see some of your old friends in the collection, and then you'll see something new. And it gives us an opportunity to mix our old collections in a way that has the privacy and the seclusion of the second floor that doesn't interfere with the exhibitions downstairs.
Okay, let's look at the next image. Okay, this was the Cheech Marin show.
That kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah,
as an avid collector,
yeah,
he's putting on his own show right here.
And again, Cheech Marin came. He, one of the world great collectors of Chicano art,
yep.
Brought in a very diverse audience and an as well as an underserved audience that hasn't been there, a multicultural audience that we don't always get in a museum. The work was first rate. He was fabulous. He came for the opening, came for the closing.
It was this. I wanted this image to pop up here to suggest something that could not occur with other old collections, and this is where either an artist or a contemporary collector can stand right in front of his own pieces and talk about not only the artist, but what inspired him to collect these pieces. And on that side of the space, literally all we had left there it's like an alley. And a lot of this is street scenes. Some of it is street scenes, some is very personal art, but it was a very simple space. And in this case, the space was painted a brilliant blue to offset the colors of his book. And what really happened here was an opportunity for a collector to engage in a small discussion with about 40 people. And they walked down the space and they came back out. Something that had never occurred at the museum before, and is actually very unique for small museums to have that direct kind of interface with the collectors. It was a great day. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so one of the things that, again, that I want to talk to about with your architecture and what the appeal is, and as you've seen in some of these pictures, there's a lot of people. And as Betty was saying earlier, it's a sacred social space and a sacred secular space. And we are trying to, again, be a social place. So again, the flow, the movement, again, I'm thinking of the party we had on Friday night.
It was great.
Doug Blake came up here, producer, and showed his film about Robert Williams, the artist. We had a little party before that, and so
in the first floor gallery.
In the gallery, and it felt very comfortable having a cocktail in that space.
It was definitely an adult hour with kids there. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that MHA is trying to do with this exhibit design, and I try and kind of just support what they're trying to do, which is fundamentally enhance visitor experience and create a sustainable financial model, which means that the exhibits, not only the content has got to be absolutely first rate, and that's up front, and everything we do behind that, the partition design, the lighting design, it's all background for that moment when people come and experience the art. But it's got to be really simple, it's got to be really clean, professional, and it's got to be done on a dime.
So let's talk about lights for a minute. So let's talk about the switch out and
the big switch out.
And the cost savings. And
yeah. The organization was awarded a grant last fall that allow us to transition from the old technology, line voltage, to LED lighting. In its simplest sense, it means that we're going to be able to lower our utility bills. And we're going to be able to light the space very, very effectively. Right now, we've got over 250 light fixtures in the museum that we keep moving around from room to room. It's a very labor-intensive process. Coupled with what we did over Casa Serrano, which we lit that building for the very first time, we're now able to display the artwork better, and as we re-lamp every exhibition sequentially, we're going to be able to lower utility bills without depreciating the visitor experience to view the artwork.
Okay, so
it's a big project.
Can I have that last image, please? Okay, so this is the church, and this is where we're going next. Hopefully we're going to, and this is the library, hopefully we're going to move this library up to Casa Serrano, make this the Blessing Chapel with hundreds of pieces of art on the wall created by the community. And
there are a number of, as you know, there are a number of best kept secrets with MHAA. One of them is just the variety of buildings they own, some of the collection items that have never been out, but one of them in particular is this St. James Church. And just a couple of things I'll say about this is it was the first church built after the Basilica in Monterey, okay, in around 1878, by a pastor that opened 6 or 7 parishes between here and Calaveras County. This is the most intact of all those structures. It was saved by an MHAA member and moved up on this hill when Monterey's Big Dig was undergoing, and they were really demolishing a lot of buildings downtown for change. It moved from a gathering space for all faiths, including Bing and his buddies on Sunday morning and people from the Del Monte Hotel, it went from a gathering space in a church to a space of individual reflection and research. It's been a library for 40 years. It's been a wonderful home for our extensive archives of California and Monterey history. But the next move that we're trying to work out now, it's a design problem and quite honestly, a familiarity question for those that have always used this as a library. We want to take it back to being a social space and being a space for gatherings. That's what's going to be really exciting. And we'll have our usual lighting and everything else that goes with it.
Thank you so much. I'm Mark Baer. I've been your host tonight on the Your Town television program. We're on tonight and every night during the week at 5 to 6. And thank you so much, and tune in.